Good morning and welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And now we have Rick Ferranti with us today, and he's from the SC Home Care Services. Nice to see you again.
Good to see both of you. How you guys doing?
Have you been staying out of mischief?
I have. It's warming up now, and after Memorial Day, I'm back to work. And was that hard, you guys getting back to work? This was tough. It was a fun weekend.
It was.
Yeah, we talked about the weekend earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
What weekend? But it was Memorial Day, so we talked earlier about the honorees that we have to always make sure that as we look at our past and look at our future, that they stay in front of us.
Absolutely. And in terms of the armed services in particular, we have a lot of some of our favorite clients are vets, and these are the vets, World War II vets. I mean, these aren't,
That's right.
the more Afghanistan things like that. That's generally not what we deal with. We deal with some of the ones that previous and the Greatest Generation and stuff.
Isn't it awesome?
These guys, the stories are remarkable, and a lot of them just want to tell those stories, and so a lot of it's just somebody listened to them. And you're like, whoa, why doesn't everybody hear these stories? These are great guys. Crazy stuff, you guys. The equipment and the things that they had, the limited amount of that compared to what they have today. I mean, these guys went in there with, leather stuff, and nothing.
Right.
Guns that didn't work. You're like,
right.
wow. Anyway, so good stuff. And you're right. It's the stuff we got to remember. It's fun. Barbecues and everything are fun. But we got to kind of remember what that whole thing is about.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
So, I wanted to come in, and obviously seniors is what we deal with, and veterans are certainly some of our favorites, but we like everybody. And, I was thinking about in terms of, you had Mary in here from Oakmont Assisted Living, and there is definitely a time and place for that, and we see this all the time in terms of progression and then, having to go to assisted living. But before all that happens, where somebody gets to the point where they're having to leave their home, having to kind of get into that stage of life, there's a long period of time where people need, they don't need all that. They don't need to go to assisted living, and yet they still need a little bit of help. And we do, a little bit of assistance. And one of the things that we do, and a lot of people, they'll call us and they'll need things like, certain number of hours a day that we need such and such. We need somebody there for cooking and cleaning, helping, that kind of thing, and this non-medical in-home care. But there is also an element that we get a lot of calls on, and something I wanted to kind of bring up so that people don't necessarily think about. And that is when they're some of this short-term, I guess you would call it, but more acute and intense time, maybe after a procedure, surgery, or some other procedure, where, I'm just fine. I don't really need a caregiver, and I don't necessarily need that kind of service at this point. But after those kinds of procedures, or after some kind of event that, for a few days, a week, that kind of thing, often the doctor, you'll have your appointments, you'll have your follow-up, you'll have even maybe home health, you'll have, professionals come in, but it's a very short amount of time. It may be physical therapy or whatever, depending on the procedure. And it'll be a short period of time, maybe an hour or two in a couple days. And then there's the rest of the time that so often people either have to rely on family and friends, or they just kind of muddle through it, and it's tough. And what happens is, and Dr. Dorio, I'm sure you see this a lot, where because of that, because it's so much of an inconvenience for family, so much of an inconvenience for friends to be there, for a lot of hours, but just for a short period of time, you have a problem with kind of complying with instructions. You get relapses, you get, where people are not doing the things they need to do, after these procedures or after these events or whatever it is. And, they're not getting help. And so they end up, either back in a hospital or back, right?
That's true.
And you get these readmissions and all these troublesome things. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, I just don't want to be a bother. I want to try and tough it out. But the problem is then and you look at it, and sometimes that's not the best time to be making those decisions anyway. You've got maybe some drugs there going on, some recovery there, and you're in pain and those kinds of things. And it's not the time to be making those decisions. Maybe, at that point, our message usually is, look, if you don't have that help or you don't have 100% of that help, that is where we can come in.
Right. That's where you come in.
Yeah, and we have people that can come in for those, it could be a few days or a week or whatever, for in periods of time when that professional isn't there, highly skilled. Now, this isn't like regular caregiving where, you're doing this for weeks after months after years. This is kind of acute situations. So I guess I would ask both of you, do you find, and have you seen that kind of thing both in your practice and in daily life where people don't necessarily think that way and then end up right back where they were, or not complying with those instructions and not in complying with and having trouble with the medications and all these kinds of things?
All the time. All the time, people are discharged from the hospital, and as well as we think computerization is, and everything is supposed to be there. I dictate a discharge summary. I sign off a list of medication. I then print it out and go over to their home like a week later with the list and everything else. And guess what? The list they have is different from what I dictated and what I signed, and that happens day in and day out. So
Wow.
One, medication gets to be a problem. Secondly, what if the person who was in congestive heart failure and was discharged from the hospital, and of course sometimes fluid becomes a problem, what if they just go back to what they were doing before and just downing the water and maybe the alcohol or anything else? What do you do with them? They're non-compliant. What if they were a smoker and they came in with an exacerbation of their emphysema and they go home and they start smoking again? What are we supposed to do? Ultimately our goal is to keep them in their home. And how do you do that? Well, certainly you want them to be compliant, but they have their comfort zone, and they're going to sometimes do exactly what they want to do, and they're not going to listen to the doctor, the family, or anybody else, and boom, they get to the edge where they might bounce right back into the hospital.
And the results are something that they don't want either.
That's right.
And especially at that sort of beginning, or that right away period of time, that short period of time at the beginning, the first week, the first week and a half, whatever, kind of depends on the situation. And you include, medication and all those, but like diet, right? Eating the right things or the right amounts and those kinds of things. Doing the exercises that your physical therapists say to do. So that's great. They come in, they show you what to do, right? Look, and this isn't just seniors or just people. All of us don't eat right. We don't do the exercise we're supposed to do, right? It's just in this situation, it's acute and it needs to be complied with. Otherwise, you end up right back in that situation. This is a time that, and unfortunately, it's also, and I've done it, when I've even had something, with my knee, or I had whatever, I had a flu, pneumonia. I'm not thinking that straight right at that point anyway, because I'm in pain or I'm feeling sick or that I've gotten the medication and I'm going, you kind of, so at that time, that is the time that you need to listen to somebody else. And look, if there is a situation where you have a family member or a friend who has nothing else to do and can come and help you during that acute period of time, take advantage of it. Right. Do not back away just because whatever, you just want to fight through it. Take advantage of it, because then you're not going to end up back and you're going to comply. Now, unfortunately, not everybody has that situation.
No, that's
they don't have
true.
A family member. They got their job.
The family is busy. Yes.
Yeah, they got a job.
That's right.
They got their kids. They got their whole thing. So if my mom called me, I'd say, but I got work. I got my kids. I can't just do that. Now, in that situation, that's the time that we can step in and kind of take that either respite or take that place to say, okay, because you don't have somebody sitting around with nothing else to do, we can take that period of time and help that through with a very skilled person. They're not the doctor, they're the eyes and ears, so that they help communicate. They help that communication to say, this is what the doctor said, right? This is what he or she said to comply with, and then vice versa. Okay, doctor, this is what's actually been happening. You like you said, here you got a different list. You don't even know if either one of those lists were complied with, really. So, but the kind of eyes and ears coming back to the physician and that says, this is actually what's been happening, and maybe we can kind of adjust this and go about a different way. What do you think, Barbara? Does that kind of sounds familiar?
Oh, yes, it does. It really does.
The intentions are always there, right?
Oh, absolutely. But then time kind of slips away.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, did you do your exercises today? No. Okay, let's get going. Let's start them. Let's do them.
And the hardest period, so before you actually have that procedure, and the time to think about this is before, right? Or any kind of situation, is to say, let's kind of set this up, whether it's the actual hours and times of days and things like that, or it's just, let's make sure we know who we're calling and we have kind of a rough estimate of what's going on, and then we'll adjust from there. But call us before. And really important here is to say, get us involved before that procedure with the medical community, with your physician, because in order to understand and comply with those things, or to at least help you with those instructions, we kind of have to know those instructions. When we go through and we sign the HIPAA forms and things like that, and say, okay, we're there to help kind of communicate back and forth, so that you're not at the end then later on coming in. So what you said, Dr. Dorio, was interesting. So if we walked in later after the fact, maybe we got the wrong list of instructions, right? So it's probably better, let's get it at the front end. Let's kind of pre-do this. So when you're thinking about any procedure, surgeries or other kinds of things, or if you're in the hospital before you're discharged, think about this as not an end, that discharge as the end. Discharge is a process,
and it's the beginning of.
And it's right in there, and the end isn't until you're past that point where you're not going to be readmitted because you've just gotten back into the same problem. I would imagine that would be of value, Dr. Dorio, to a physician that says, look, of course, you could do it the other way. You could just go to their house the whole time, Dr. Dorio. You could just sit there with them all day. I'm not sure you have the ability to do that either.
Nor the time.
No, the time. You probably have a patient or two that probably would
and it'd be nice if I could, but there's extrinsic motivation from a lot of things going on with the patient. And certainly having a doctor there all the time would be great, or family members all the time, but they can. And, I use that huge threat to hang over my patients. If you don't survive here at home, then you're going to a nursing home. And I will tell you that assures many a time that our patients will get up, be motivated when they know they need to do the exercise, when I've told them, okay, you're here now. But it is the beginning of the time of after your procedure, after your hospitalization, that you now have to take the other steps on your own to survive here. You can't do that, you're out of here.
Yeah.
And that's when I come in a week later and check people out, and if they're not doing well, then it's a decision. Are they readmitted to the hospital? Do we make some adjustments? Or do we feel that the patient's not going to do well enough, are in jeopardy of their life and well-being, that we need to send them to a nursing home? And I will tell you, those World War II veterans, they're tough.
Oh, God.
And I will tell you, each and every one of them, I have never had one of those veterans ever turn around and say to me, yeah, I'm going to a nursing home, send me there. Never.
Right.
So I know that their motivation is different, but I use that motivation to make sure that they do the things they need to do. And in this community, we're pretty lucky as a physician. There's a lot of compliance using that little carrot there, for them to jump at.
It's interesting. My father was a World War II veteran, and in the early 80s, late 70s and early 80s, they didn't have organizations like yours to come in and care for the senior.
Options.
They didn't have it. So it was the brother or the sister of the parents or their children who would have to come in and care for them. And that's what happened to my mother and my father. My mother had to go into a nursing home because my dad couldn't take care of her.
Yeah.
And he Babs, you got to come home. I need you. We need to do something with your mom. And of course, my brother and I got there, and we had to admit her into a nursing home. And of course, that left my father hanging, because he was so used to having her around, and he was so used to helping her. Now he had nothing. And that, unfortunately, led to his early demise.
This is it's one of those things where it's this difficult thing to understand, but what a lot of times is people look at any kind of help like this as a loss of independence, right? And yet, when you look at it, it really is something that helps continue independence, because the alternative is what you just described, Barbara, is, right, you kind of go off that cliff, and then you end up in a nursing home, or you end up in some facility that you really, that was the whole point of of refusing care.
Well,
So
it's
if
interesting.
you're,
Excuse me. It's interesting because my father absolutely refused to go to any kind of area or place where he couldn't be his own independent person.
right.
And unfortunately, it, like I said
Took a
before,
toll.
it took its toll.
Yeah, and obviously there's going to come a time that all of us are going to end up in those situations at some point, right? Somewhere along that line, as long as we're doing what we need to do. I mean, you're going to end up living into a situation where you're going to need that help. But there's this long period of time for a lot of people, years, that they don't need to do that. And if they just kind of incrementally have some assistance along the way, then that period of time can be very long and very rewarding. I mean, this is good quality of life, guys. I talk to a lot of people about, the medicine and the, extended lifespan and seniors, etc. And so many of them, this is horrible, keeping people alive. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Yeah, that could be an issue out there. But I'm talking about all those other really good years. Great stuff that could be a long period of time that people are independent with a little bit of assistance, but are independent, are doing great things, are still attending the things they want to, and having a great quality of life. This is about not removing quality of life. This is about extending great quality of life.
Absolutely.
Which is, I think, the goal of everybody wanted to begin with. So,
absolutely, yes.
And it includes these kind of acute things on the discharges and so on, as we were talking about, because in those cases, they're just a little bit more kind of intense at that point because of the procedure or the surgery or whatever it is that they went through. And so you just kind of have to focus on it at that point. But at all levels, looking at it, and I think just the best way to look at this is a independence preserver versus an independence reducer. And
right.
If you're looking at assistance that way, I think that, I would imagine you have some patients and you have some friends that, gosh, we could keep you out of assisted living and skilled nursing homes if you just had a little bit of help. I would imagine.
We've gone from your dad in the 1980s to the present right now. And if we go to 10 years from now, let's say 2025, we're going to have robots, and Rick, you're going to have your whole charge of robots that will be there. You'll have control of them. You'll make sure that they're keeping an eye on patients. I will have a autonomous van that will have a robot, and I'll be sending that van out to Tehachapi, and we'll do a house call there, and it will have my robot will have a screen and a stethoscope, and I'll be able to then live, face to face, talk to my patient out there, listen to their lungs, and maybe even write a prescription that way, or call their pharmacy, and they'll drone the pharmacy and do a drop-off.
No.
So 10 years from now, all of that could be in vogue. So, but it all will be to try to maintain the independence that our seniors need to remain in their home.
But there's one critical thing here: human contact.
Yes.
When you've got robots, that's not human contact.
I'll send them a teddy bear.
Hey, there's a happy medium here too.
That's not talking and touching and assuring.
But I think what happens,
the drone will drop me off.
The happy medium is having the human touch and then having technology do all those things faster and better so you can do more of it.
That's very true.
I think that's a good way to think about it.
That's very true. And with that, we need to take a break. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Good morning and welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking with Rick Ferranti of SC Santa Clarita Home Care Services. And you have a very important topic that you want to talk about now.
Yeah, and as I have in the past. And, you know, we're talking about issues at home with seniors in particular. And one of the biggest ones out there is dementia, and in particular the form of dementia that's the most common, which is Alzheimer's. And, you know, we can talk about it, and obviously it's something that we deal with on a day-to-day basis at our business. And many families are dealing with this all the time. But there's also something we can do about it. The Alzheimer's Association is an organization that helps support caregivers who are helping people with the disease, as well as funding research to be able to hopefully someday, guys, find a cure.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Just, I mean, what an incredible day. What a party we're going to have on that day.
Absolutely.
But we're not there yet. And probably not even, you know, we're not at the point where it's just one or the other. It's going to be this gradual process, but it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of resources. And in the meantime, it also takes a lot of money and resources to support the people that have the disease and are caring for those people that have the disease. So here in local Santa Clarita, we have our Walk to End Alzheimer's, which is October 8th at Bridgeport Park. And that walk, we have teams that are coming out there. We need teams. We need people to do the fundraising and to come out and walk and be a team captain and support those two things, all the education, support, and resources for the people with those diseases. And then the Alzheimer's Association spends millions and millions and millions of dollars funding various research out there. And it is exciting. There's a lot of stuff out there right now that institutions, universities, and so on are doing that are getting closer and closer, but we don't know, and it takes a lot to do that. So the walk is on October 8th. We're looking for teams right now. Going to alz.org, www.alz.org, and then find the Santa Clarita Walk and sign up as a team captain. You can also call us at our office, and we'll help you. Help guide you. Home Care Services is 800-808-4777. And if you give us a call, we'll help guide you in terms of being a team captain. We're also looking for sponsors. So any organizations out there, Oakmont that you had on earlier is one of our sponsors. We're looking for other corporate sponsors for the walk at various levels. We're looking for vendors, and then we're looking for volunteers. So there's a lot going on locally, both with the walk and other events that is going on. Give us a call, go to our website, give us a call, find out what's going on and how you can help. And this is Santa Clarita. This is Santa Clarita's walk. This isn't LA. This isn't, it's a national association, but this is our local walk. And it's over at Bridgeport. The walk itself, or the registration starts at 7:30, from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. And then we have an opening ceremonies and then the walk at 10. So I'm looking for anybody out there for those teams and sponsors. And then I've got at least 2 team captains sitting right in this room, because I know Barbara's going to be a team captain and come out there, and I know Dr. Dorio is going to come out there as team captain. I know it's close to somebody's birthday.
I'll be in
Tehachapi. Okay, we could still be a captain and send everybody else. And I know it's somebody's birthday, so we're close by that.
Close to somebody's birthday.
To somebody's birthday. So we're getting the cake out, and we're supposed to be exercising, but we'll have a cake anyway.
Hey,
looking for help. Don't just think about it. Don't just dream about it. Let's do something about it and help us out.
Great, Rick. You're always doing
That's
super
right.
things in our community. You know that, just not only helping our seniors, but getting out there and helping something that seems to be so defeating against us. But you don't give up. You keep fighting this off and doing the walk and participating like you do. It's really wonderful, and you're quite an asset to this community. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, and I appreciate the help we're getting from other corporations and companies and individuals and folks like you guys. Appreciate it.
So once again, if they want to get a hold of you and Home Health Services for Santa Clarita, they can call
800-808-4777 or go to our website. So it's www.homecaresantaclarita.com. So just those words, homecaresantaclarita.com. walk.com.
And as we move closer to October 8th, we'll have even more specific information about the walk.
Absolutely, and it's not going to be far off.
Yeah, in the
and
blink of an
all
eye,
of
right?
a sudden,
Summer's going to be gone.
Look, half the year is almost gone.
so that's something.
Spring's gone. It's going to be 100 this weekend.
That's right. So
Yeah,
heads
that
up,
I
our
know.
seniors. Rick, thanks for being on the show again. We appreciate it once again. That phone number is 1-800-808-4777. And we'll bring more information back to our listeners in
Absolutely.
the next few months. Appreciate it.
Thanks
so
for
much,
having
Rick.
me.
Thank
we
you,
are
Rick.
sponsored by Advanced Audiology and SCV In-Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.